Barakatayawa, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is In a Class of Our Own, with all humility. And pretty much this is a lesson, something I was listening to earlier. I can't remember what it was. It just put that thought in my mind. You know, the phrase, a class of our own, which you see here, a class of our own, which this is actually, I'm not sure what country this is, but this is actually a phrase that Rolex uses, a class of our own. And pretty much it's fitting, you know, like I said, not to be high-minded or proud or anything like that, just to speak the truth, you know, that the Lord has given us a knowledge that is far superior, you know, to any other knowledge on the planet. And it has elevated us, you know, above these nations and even among, you know, members of our own nation, you know. And like I said, we say this with all humility. You know, this is why we say we have 100% truth. And you have other Israelites out there that are a part of the elect that may not necessarily be a part of GMS, but are part of the elect and fall within that same category, you know. And I just put in the class of our own meaning. It says phrase, because it is a phrase. If someone is in a class of their own, they have more of a particular skill or quality than anyone else. If something is in a class of its own, it's better than any other similar thing. As a player, he was in a class of his own. All right, so pretty much it's being set apart from anyone else due to the skills that were given to us by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai. And those skills begin with the scriptures, the law, statutes, and commandments that were given to us, that separated us from these nations and put us in a class of our own, you know. So the first scripture I had was, I thought about the nations and I thought about the Lord separating us. You know, that was the thought pattern that the Spirit had me thinking about. So the first scripture that came to mind was Genesis 25:23. Well, actually, I actually typed in separate in the search engine of the Bible, and this is one of the scriptures that came up. I said, this is a good one. It says, and the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, dealing with Jacob and Esau. This is the beginning of the so-called Negro/Indian race of the nation of Israel and the so-called white race, the Edomites. It says, and two manner of people shall be what? Separated from thy bowels. And when you really look at this in its proper perspective, you got to remember that these two children, which were actually twins, fraternal twins, this was the determining factor of which one of these boys was going to receive the promise that the Most High gave to Abraham. Because it came down to Abraham. Abraham had seeds. It passed to Isaac from all of those seeds. Then it passed down to Jacob from those two seeds, which was Jacob and Esau. So this was the determining factor, the seed that the Lord was going to elevate above all nations, the chosen nation of the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. It says, and one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And you can see that, you know, that we're mentally, spiritually, you know, and physically stronger than these other nations. All right, so the next precept we have is the book of Deuteronomy 32. But the point is a separation. Taking out of all the people of the earth, taking this one particular nation and separating them from all of the nations and elevating them above all others. And that gift that was given to us was what allowed us to be put into that category, to be into that elevated state, you know, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of this truth, you know. And the law, statutes, and commandments, that's really what made us holy. You know, we weren't made holy because we were righteous. We were made holy because of the law, statutes, and commandments that were given to us by our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and His beloved Son, Yahweh Shai. So Deuteronomy 32:8 says, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, meaning their plots of land, when He separated the sons of Adam, because all peoples trace their line back to Adam on the planet Earth. I don't give a damn what you call yourself, what you look like. You know, everyone traces their line back to Adam. There was even an article that I just ran across, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where it says that all people can trace their line back, you know, to all people of the planet are all related, interrelated, which is true, because all people go back to Adam. All people go back to Noah. All people go back to Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And from them three boys, which became men, the whole earth was repopulated. So all people of the planet Earth are all interrelated in one way or the other. But there was a division among these nations, and there was a chosen nation that the Lord chose and set him apart from all other nations, and gave him, you know, gave them a gift, or gave them, you know, a banner that would set them apart from all nations of the planet. Okay? And even within that nation, He has a chosen that He set apart. But let's deal with the nation part first. When He separated the sons of Adam, He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel, because all nations got their lands first and we got ours last. It says, for the Lord's, that's why it says, for the last shall be first and the first shall be last. For the Lord's portion is His people. Jacob is the lot of His inheritance. So out of all the peoples of the planet Earth, Jacob, which is in the Hebrew is Ya'iquab, which means supplanter, whose name was later changed to Israel, which goes back to the Hebrew word Yasha'Allah, Yahi, Shar, prince, Allah, God, He, prince of God, or He, prince of the power. You know, that was where the line rested. That is where the Lord said, okay, this is the seed or the people that I said that I would bless. And it's the same story from Genesis all the way to Revelation and everything in between. But the problem is individuals trying to wiggle their way in there, like Vocab Malone and other demons. You know, they're trying to make the Bible say something it doesn't say, because they don't have the understanding, and they stumble at these stumbling blocks that are set up in the scriptures. There's a reason why the Lord chose the nation of Israel. There's a reason why there's a chosen nation, a chosen people. You know, and that has never changed. The problem is that we went into captivity for our disobedience. And in going into captivity for our disobedience, we were mingled among all these different nations, learned their customs, learned their language, you know, ate their food, laid down with their women. And our children started to look like those nations because of the men laying down with the women of those nations. This is why you have a scattering throughout the whole world. And this is why the Lord said that like He scattered us among all these nations, now He's going to gather us back. And right now it's beginning with the gathering of the elect of the nation of Israel. The ones that are being brought back by the same word that the Lord promised from the beginning. So going from there, we go to Deuteronomy 26:16, and I ran across this. I believe the word separated comes up in here. If I'm not mistaken, somehow I ran across this precept, which is an excellent precept for that clown with that hat that said, you know, you have to take an oath in order for the curses to be upon you and the blessing to be upon you. Well, this is going to show you that our forefathers did that very thing, you know, since you want to go that route with it. This is Deuteronomy 26:16. This day the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai thy power hath commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments. Thou shalt therefore keep and do them with all thine heart and with all thy soul. Right? Because that is the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall love the Lord thy power with all thy heart, mind, and soul. It says, thou hast what? Avouched the Lord, this day to be thy God, and walked in his ways, and to keep his statutes and commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. Now, what does this word avouched mean? I'm being, a little dramatic with it. The word avouch is from the Hebrew word amar, which means to say. It says to say, speak, utter. To say, to answer, to say in one's heart, to think, to command, to promise, to intend, to be told, to be said, to be called, to boast, to act proudly, avow, to avouch. Then the scripture say, better it is that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. Now let's look up this word avow. Assert or confess openly, what is another word for this? Oath. An oath. All right, confess, assert. So the children of Israel did just that. And even if they wouldn't have done that, they would have still suffered the curses, because the Lord said that would happen if we did not follow his laws, statutes, and commandments. Avouch, affirm, or assert, which is the same thing. Let me get rid of these. All right, so it says, thou hast avouched the Lord this day to be thy power, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. And the Lord hath avouched thee this day to be his peculiar people, as he hath promised thee, and that thou shouldest keep all his commandments, and to make thee high above all nations which he had made. You see? High above all nations which he had made. In what? In praise. Who gets more praise than the Israelites for their achievements, for their talents, for their amazing and spectacular abilities, beginning with Judah, the so-called Negroes? Who gets more praise than the Israelites for all of the great achievements, the music, the talent, the dancing, the sports, the abilities that puzzle all these other nations? How did he learn to slide like that? It says, in praise and what? And in name, because no other nation on the planet Earth has the name of Israel, Yasha'Allah, like we do. Matter of fact, I'm going to come back to this, but let me go real quick to Isaiah 63. And I'm going to start at the 17th verse. The point is in 19. O Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, why hast thou made us to err from thy ways? Because when you understand the scriptures, the Lord made us to go off. So the same way we were subjected to go off, we would be subjected to look for his mercy and the hope of salvation from the Lord. Right? It says, and harden our heart from thy fear. And that's the reason why you have a lot of jakes out here that don't fear the Lord. Because the Lord, there's a spell over them that they can't get to do the right thing. Return for thy servant's sake the tribes of thine inheritance. Because this is what the Lord promised. And he said he's not a man that he should lie. The people of thy holiness have possessed it but a little while. Our adversaries have trodden down thy sanctuary. That's what the Babylonians did, the Edomites, the other nations. We are thine. Thou never bearest rule over them. So the Lord never dealt with these nations. This is why he gave us the law, statutes, and commandments to keep. And he did not do that with any other nation. It says, they were not called by thy name. Okay? So these nations were never called by the name of the Most High. He never placed that stamp or that seal of approval upon them. Yasha'Allah. Boom. He is the Prince of the Power. He never stamped that on anybody else but our people. The so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. So going back to Deuteronomy 26:19, and to make thee high above all nations, which he hath made in praise and in name and in honor. Because remember, the nations would look at us and be like, wow, what nation is so great as these people? And the same way we were praised and lauded by these nations, we were also ridiculed and laughed to scorn by. When they said in such amazement, is this the city that people call the beauty of perfection, the joy of all the earth? How has she become desolate, or something along those lines? It says, and that thou mayest be an holy people unto the Lord thy power, as he have spoken. So this massacres that bullshit. I mean, all the other precepts that were brought out, you know, even if we wouldn't have took an oath, we still would have been under the curses. Tells you that in Daniel, the 9th chapter. But this even cements it even more for that clown that said that. That, well, what does avouched mean? It means to say. When you say something, you confess it. You speak it openly. You're taking a vow. You're taking an oath. Dude. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to Amos. Chapter 3 and 1. It says, hear this word that the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. What does that mean? You only have I known of all the families of the earth. You are the only ones that received this gift, this mystery, these laws, statutes, and commandments that set you above all nations and set you aside or separated you from all nations. This is why when Abraham gave gifts to all his children, all his sons, he gave Isaac first the inheritance. Then he gave the other sons of the concubines gifts, and then he sent them away from Isaac because they were not heirs of the promise. Just in that, alone, you could close the book and show that these Renaissance Christians are bugged out. Why, if the truth is for all people, why did the Lord separate Isaac from all of those other seeds of Abraham? Didn't the Lord say he would bless all nations in Abraham and his seed? You don't understand what that means. It's too high powered. It says, therefore, so the Lord, by him saying he only knew us, that means he gave us his laws, statutes, and commandments. That's how he revealed himself to us. This is how we became married to the Lord. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities, because you should have known better. You should have known better. All right. Now, let's go from there. Let's go to second. Matter of fact, before we go to there, let's go to Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 22 on down. This is Leviticus 20 and 22. You shall therefore keep all my statutes and all my judgments and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you not out. Right, because that's the reason why the Canaanites were being kicked out of that land, because of their odious works. And you shall not walk in the manners of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. Meaning he got rid of them out of their land. He avoided them out of that land. He removed them out of that land. But I have said unto you, you shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your power, which what? Have separated you from other people. So he set us in a class of our own. Like you have, let's say you have auditions for a movie, for songs, for plays, for whatever. And you have a whole bunch of people that want the different parts in that movie. So you sit there and you go through each and every one of them, and you weed out the ones that don't have talent. You weed out the ones that don't fit the part, and you get down to the nitty gritty, which out of, let's say, 1,000 people that come for that part, or whatever the case may be, you might only need 10 people or 15 people or 20 people. So that's a whole process of going through all those people and scrutinizing them all and removing them out the way just to get to those 15, 20 people that you want. 10, 15, 20 people, whatever the case may be, however big the movie is, or big the budget is. So that's what the Lord did with the nation of Israel. You know, he gave us laws, statutes, and commandments that separated us from all these different nations. You got the part, kid. It says, you shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and unclean, which Jake don't want to do today because they love that goddamn pork. Anything to justify them eating that pork, slobbing that pork down, you know. And between unclean fowls and clean, and you shall not make your souls abominable by beast or by fowl, right, eating squirrels and all kind of raccoons and all that shit, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean, and you shall be holy unto me. Why? Because of the law, statutes, and commandments that the Lord gave us. For I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people that you should be mine. All right? Now let's go from there to Exodus. This is another one I ran across. Exodus 33. And I think... and 15. It says, and he said unto him, if thy presence go with me, this the Moses speaking to the Most High, carry us not up hence, for wherein shall it be known here that I and thy people have found grace in thy sight? Is it not that thou goest with us? So shall we be separated, I and the people, from all people that are upon the face of the earth. Why? Because we are in a class of our own. What does that mean again? It says they have more of a particular skill or quality than anyone else. And that's what set us apart from these nations. Now, 2 Samuel 7 and 22 says, wherefore thou art great, O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the power, for there is none like thee. And this is why, I'm not sure if that was King David that wrote Psalms 147. But he says, praise ye the Lord, because the law, statutes, and commandments and the judgments of the Lord and all of that was given to us and not to those nations. Praise ye the Lord. Neither is there any power beside thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what one nation in the earth is like thy people? And there's no comparison. These other nations are dismal. They're dead. When you see so-called Japanese or so-called Chinese that can dance, that can sing, that can move like Jake. Why is that? Because they are Jakes. You can't fake having rhythm. You can't fake, having talent. You either have it or you don't. Like William Hung don't. You can't sing, you can't dance, now what? Inside joke. But an Israelite that looks like those nations, he can move, he can dance, or he or she. Why? Because they are Israelites. They just happen to be Israelite foreigners. In the most extreme, way. It says, even like Israel, whom the Most High went to redeem for a people to himself, which he didn't do for anybody else, and to make him what? A name. Because that's when the Most High's name, Yahweh, was exalted throughout the earth when he delivered us out of Egypt, our forefathers. And to do for you great things and terrible for thy land, before thy people, which thou redeemest to thee from Egypt, from the nations and their gods. For thou hast confirmed to thyself thy people Israel to be a people unto thee forever. Because you have those that say, well, Lord, God, he cast Israel out. He cast them out of the land. Not as his people forever. Because he promised Abraham. And thou, Lord, art become their power. Boom, that's it. So now, switching gears, we're going to go into the elect, among the elect nation, which are the elect, the chosen, the ones that are given this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that sets us apart, in a class of our own. And I say this with all humility, not bragging or boasting, just saying it with all humility. And all of the elect that are out there, no matter what group they may be in, or even if they're still in the world, We are all set in a class of our own as the elect, and hopefully we are the elect, you know. So when we go to Matthew 22:14, it says, for many are called, but what few are chosen. Why? Because not everyone is going to make the cut. Not everyone is going to be able to hang. Not everyone's going to get the mysteries. Not everyone's going to get, the stability to endure. And this is where the fear of the Lord comes in handy, because it's like knowing that there's no room to be proud. There's no room to exalt or elevate oneself. So now let's go from there to Matthew chapter 13 and 9. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, why speakest thou unto them in parables? What is a parable? It's a riddle. It's a story told with different symbolisms, like an allegory that symbolizes something. All right. It says, so Yahushua didn't speak plainly to the people. He didn't tell them everything that he was speaking about. He spoke to them in parables, because this is the prophecy of how he would come to the earth and how he would speak to the masses. He answered and said unto them, unto the disciples, because it is given what? Unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. So the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven is what set them apart in a class of their own. You see? And this knowledge is what sets us apart in a class of our own. It says, but to them it is not given. So the ones that don't receive it, they can't get it. And the point is to receive it. When you receive something, that means somebody gave it to you. So the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Shai has given us a gift that he didn't give to everybody else. Everybody else is hearing it. They're walking past it. They're scoffing at it. They're scorning at it. They're doing whatever they do, but they're not coming to the light because it's not given to them, because it's, at the end of the day, it's a gift. A shalom to the elder Barak Allah, and shalom to all the, Akim that's on there, the sincere, and, shalom to the sincere few sisters that may be still hanging around there, hanging in there. It says, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given. Right. So if the Lord gave you, us, anyone, this gift, to him shall be given. Right. So if you have it, you're going to get more abundance, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Right. So it's a thing of, having total humility before the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Al Shai, because we know this is why King David, as great as King David was and is, he prayed to the Lord, said, take not thy Holy Spirit away from me. Because the key is to have that connection. Once that connection is severed, it's not good. It says, therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And that's the point. Can't see, can't hear, and can't understand. And that is the cement and the glue that sets us apart from everybody else in a class of our own. It says, and in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, because somebody had to fulfill that prophecy, which saith, by hearing you shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing you shall see and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and should understand with their heart, because if they able to understand and should be converted, meaning turn back, repent, and I should heal them, right? Because that is the healing process. You have to hear the reproof. You have to hear the admonition, accept it, be convicted within yourself, repent, and then turn back to the Lord. Okay, now that I went off, please forgive me. Now what do you require of me? Right? It says, but blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see. Right? Because there were many prophecies that were spoken back then. But the main prophecy was what? Yahweh Shai coming on the scene. And many of those prophets desired to see the Messiah. but they weren't able to because it wasn't time. But guess what? The disciples and later on the men that gathered were all part of the same prophets that were back there that prophesied these things. And they see it in this time when Yahushua came on the scene and have not seen them. And to hear those things which you hear and have not heard them. So that's the point right there. That's the separation. That's where the rubber meets the pavement. Now, let's go from there to St. John chapter 15 and 12. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. See? Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. And this is why in Revelation 3 it says that the Lord will come and sup with us. And you heard the Elder Apostle Gabar bring it out, that word sup goes into showing you his most intimate feelings. You know? When somebody tells you their innermost secrets, you know, that means that they trust and love you. You know? So Yahushua gave this to his disciples, and they in turn gave it to us. You see? So no longer are they served. So because this gift is what puts us in a class of our own, sets us apart from everybody else. You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that you should. And the Lord is the one that chose and ordained us, not ourselves. And I'm pretty sure if I ask any brother in the truth and in the knowledge right now, no matter what camp they may be in, you know, did you think about, were you ever in a process or thought about becoming a priest, a preacher, a teacher of the Lord? And I'm pretty sure that majority of them would say no, if not all of them. Because this life doesn't teach that. This life pushes more, you know, finding a solution, a ground, a base, you know, where you can build economically, you know, and provide for yourself, for your family, so on and so forth, which is nothing wrong with that. But the first thing is we have to get close to our power. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. It says that you should go and bring forth fruit. And that is the purpose of you men out here to learn this truth is to bring forth fruit. Gather other of the fruits into the barn, into the basket. Not just to learn this and just keep it to yourself, you know, because you have individuals out there like that. They have their talent in a napkin. It says, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever you shall ask the Father in my name, Yahushai, not Jesus, he may give it you. These things I command you, that you love one another. Now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Let's go there. Oh, matter of fact, before we go there, let's go to Exodus. Yeah, this is what I wanted to get. Exodus 23:16. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors. So the first fruits of the labors is what? That's the first part of your crop, the best of the crop. Matter of fact, let me just get this other precept and then we can go back to this. All right. It says, when you look up, it says, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors of the field. Okay, so this is what we're supposed to give the Lord, the first fruits. So let's look up this word, first fruits. If we could find it. All right, here we go. First fruits. The word first fruits is bakawar. First fruits, the first of the crops, and fruit that ripened, was gathered and offered to the Most High according to the ritual of Pentecost, which is really the feast of first fruits. Pentecost is a Greek way of saying it, which the word penta is 5. So as Pentecost is 50 days. The bread made of the new grain offered at Pentecost, the day of the first fruits. All right. Now, when we go to the root word of bakawar is the word bakar, which the word bakar is synonymous with to be born first. So the first fruits were the first of your crop that you would give to the Lord, right? And the first fruits of the Israelites are the head of the lineage of the chosen, and this is who the Lord is gathering. You know, Elder Apostle Gabar goes into this all the time, and that's the main point. So let's go back and let's go to Exodus 13:1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Sanctify unto me all the what? Firstborn, whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine." So the first fruits, the firstborn, belong to the Lord. So even among the brothers, when you have your first son, that is really the Lord's son. He's dedicated to the Lord. Hannah, which was a wife of Elkanah, she couldn't get pregnant, and his other wife. For those of you guys out there that say, "Oh, you can only have one wife," and his other wife would look down on her because she was popping babies out left and right, and Hannah couldn't get pregnant. So Hannah made a vow to the Lord that if the Lord would bless her to get pregnant, she would dedicate her son to the Lord, and that's where Samuel came out. The firstborn of, not of Elkanah, because he had other children, but the firstborn through her. You know, he's the first one that opened up the womb of his mother. All right. So let's go from there. Oh, let me see. Oh, right there. See the firstborn, bakawar, which is the same word as first fruit, which goes back to the same root word bakar, which means firstborn. Firstborn, firstling of men and women, of animals, none of relation. Okay, so that's pretty much it, the firstborn. Now let's go from there to 1 Corinthians, and these are the ones that are set aside in a class of their own. 1 Corinthians 15, and let's start at 20. It says, "But now is Yahushua risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept." Let's get that word first fruits in the Greek, which is the word aparche. Aparche is a compound word, apple, which means through or to send, and arkomai, which means beginning. To send to the beginning or through the beginning. Because those are what? The firstborn. To offer firstlings of first fruits. To take away the first fruits of the production of the earth, which was offered to the Most High, right? And that was offered to the Most High because it was the best part of your crop. The first portion of the dough from which sacred loaves were to be prepared, because the Lord look, you can't just give the Lord anything. You got to give him the best. Inside joke. And when you go to Malachi, it states that, you know, cursed be the deceiver that hath in his flock a male and vows to the Lord a corrupt thing, or something along those lines, right? It says, hence, term use of persons consecrated to the Most High for all time. So every time the elect come back, they come back in their order. You're not going to be a prophet in one lifetime, a true prophet, and then come back as a slimy individual in another life, you know, a cutthroat. Isaiah 34:17, it says, "And he, the Most High, hath cast a lot for them." For who? For the prophets. What is a lot? A portion. All right? And his hand had divided it unto them by line, right? Because the Most High is the one that gave each one a portion. This is why the parable, I forget the name of the parable right offhand, but the parable of the talents, I believe it was, some had 30-fold, some 60-fold, and some 100-fold. So the Lord gave each prophet a certain portion, a certain lot. And his hand had divided it unto them by line, which is the lines of the scriptures. This is why when you look at the book of Isaiah, he had, 66 books. Then you had Jeremiah, Ezekiel, they had big portions. But then you had Obadiah, Zephaniah, you know, Nehemiah. I'm sorry, not Nehemiah, Zephaniah, Nahum, and prophets like that didn't get as much, but their portion is just as important, because their portion, along with the small portions, along with the great portions, are all a part of the whole. And it has to be all together, one whole. That's the perfection. It says they shall what? Possess it forever. So they'll never lose it. Every time they come back, they're going to come back in their lot. From generation to generation shall they dwell therein. So every time they come back, they're going to be in that state, in that, around the word, around, the influence, around the understanding of the Lord. All right. It says persons superior. This is back in First Fruits Aparke. It says persons superior in excellence to others of the same class. So even among the nation of Israel, you have those that are part of the elect, the first fruits, which are in a class of their own above all other Israelites. Whether they know they're Israelites or not, it all depends on if they are part of the elect or not. That's who's in a class of their own. All right. And once again, we read in a class of our own, it says they have more of a particular skill or quality than anyone else. And even the definition of aparke, the Greek word, it says person superior in excellence to others of the same class. You see? And even among those that know that they're Israelites, we stand out even above them. And like I said, I say that in all humility. I'm not trying to be proud, and I'm just stating the obvious of what the scriptures say. I ain't trying to be Captain Obvious. All right, so let's go from there. Let's go to the book of James, chapter 1, and verse 16. It says, do not err, my beloved brethren. Why? Because we have the instruction. Now, does that mean that we're not going to go off? No, we're going to go off. This is why we have grace. But when it speaks about not erring, speaking about not erring in the truth, because the scriptures say that the leaders of this people cause them to err. So we not trying to commit no errors when it comes to teaching the word. That's what the Apostle Paul said. I speak wisdom among them that are perfect. Perfect in what? Perfect in understanding. All right. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. And this is what sets apart the elect from the non-elect. This is what sets them in a class of their own. It says, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he us, but what? With the word of truth, which is what? The seed. The word is the seed. Matter of fact, let's get it says nope, that's not it. Okay, I got the combination backwards. Luke 8:11. Now the parable is this: the seed is the word of the Most High. So the Lord said that of his own will, of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's own will, begat he us with the word of truth, which is the seed, which is what gave life. So the elect are the first fruits, or the first seed, or the first seed line, or the top of the food chain, so to speak, that receive the gift of this knowledge. And Lord's will, if we endure all the way to the end, we are of that ilk, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. All right. Now, let's go from there to Revelation chapter 14. We're going to start at 1. It says, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion. The Lamb is Yahushai. Mount Zion is the government of Israel. And with him 144,000, which are the top men of the government of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, having his father's name written in their foreheads. When you go to the different translations, when you go to the Spanish, when you go to the Hebrew, when you go to the Greek, when you go to the Latin, they all pretty much say the same thing. And they say this, and in the NLT, then I saw the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him were 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. You see? So this is, both of those names are important. I don't know why the King James Version left out the name of Yahushai. It says, then I looked, and there before me was a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. So you get the idea. It says, and I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, as the voice of great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne. And that new song is the song that we're singing right now, which is the song of salvation. And only those that are part of the first fruits can learn the lyrics to the song. And that's what we say. Hopefully we are those part of that number. And before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn the song but the 144,000, which were what? Redeemed from the earth, bought back from the earth. Why? Because the 144,000, the elect, were in the world under the spell of the beast, just which is a man, according to Nate, just like everybody else. But there came a time where separation happened. At midnight there was a voice heard. All right. It says, they are they which were not defiled with women, meaning they were not defiled by these different philosophies and religions and schools of thoughts and so on and so forth. For they are virgins, right? They are separated from these false philosophies. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the what? The first fruits unto the Most High and to the Lamb. They're in a class of their own. And in their mouth, not their flesh, in their mouth was found no guile. It says, for they are without fault before the throne of the Most High. Why? Because they're teaching the gospel 100%. They are perfect in understanding, and their mouth is no guile. Because this flesh is corrupt. The Apostle Paul even said, O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this sin? And that's why the very next chapter, Romans 8 chapter, he said, that, matter of fact, let me get it because I can't think of the actual quote. Romans chapter 8 and 1. There is therefore no condemnation to them that are in Yahushua. Yep. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Yahushua, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. You see? Because the bottom line is, what's going to deliver us, what's going to save us, if we're part of the elect? The testimony that we hold, not the flesh that we carry, or that is carrying our spirit. It's the testimony that's going to get us to the finish line, to be delivered. The flesh is unprofitable. The flesh is going to be changed. Before we hit the chariot, as I understand it in the precepts, as you're going up, you have to go up with the same body so that the enemies can behold and recognize, oh snap, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so, and that's so, and then at a certain point in the air, the body can't breathe, so it has to change. And I believe that's going to take place just before you get into the chariot. And then from that, everything is going to be going, that's that change. Then you have the stony heart taken out. You have the fleshly heart put in, and then the law, statutes, and commandments, inserted, and there goes the perfection of the Israelite man / Israelite woman. Ain't that about something? So it says, and in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of the Most High. All right, now let's go to Romans chapter 8. Wow, this is already there. And 22. It says, for we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. Right, because our goal and our mission is what? To be delivered from this wicked flesh, from these wicked thoughts, from this wicked world. From the woes of the world. It says, and not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit. See, the best portion of the knowledge of the Spirit. Even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, or to know, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why doth he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. So this is what we're waiting for, the redemption of these corrupt bodies. So 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and I'll leave it here unless the Spirit gives me another precept. Oh, I might have one more. 2 Corinthians 4 and 3, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. Lost to what? Lost to salvation. Because they won't receive the blessing of the knowledge of the truth to be saved. It says, in whom the God of this world, Esau, hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Yahushua, which is the reservation, the ticket, who is the image of the Most High, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Yahushua the Lord, and ourselves your servants for Yahushua's sake. For the Most High hath commanded the light to shine out of darkness. For the Most High, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in our hearts, see, with this gospel, which is the gift of the first fruits, which is what sets them apart in a class of their own, to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of the Most High in the face of Yahushua HaMashiach. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of the Most High and not of us. See? Because it's the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua that gave that gift. And this is what sets us apart in a class of our own. And Lord's will, if we endure to the end, then we'll be the elect, those first fruits. So pretty much with that, this has been in a class of our own. I say that with all humility. And I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.